All right, and now covering our third god in the Chaos Pantheon series, we go into Tzeentch here. We've already covered Khorne and we've covered Slaanesh, and our last video will obviously be for Big Daddy Papa Nurgle himself. But today we're going to do the same kind of format. We're going to read from the Hordes of Chaos 6th edition book, then jump into the 8th edition Demons of Chaos book, so that you guys can get an idea for how Games Workshop really describes Tzeentch the Changer of Ways. Now we've seen a little bit of him already in Total War with Total War Warhammer with Sarthariel, or whatever his name is, the giant bird. That is a great changer of ways, the greater demon of Tzeentch, and he's really the only exposure we've had to some of the actual greater demons in Total War Warhammer. We will hopefully be getting more of that in the third iteration. That's kind of the big rumor right now, and that's why I'm not going into as much of the unit details. But at the end of the description of Tzeentch's realm, the Sorcerer's realm, we'll go into a quick little brief overview of which units kind of call Tzeentch their patron god. But let's go into Tzeentch here, the changer of the ways, not changer of ways, which I tend to commonly mix up. Tzeentch is the changer of the ways, and changes the essence of chaos itself, as well as all of the ever-mutating energy that is known to mortals as magic. Also known as Char among the barbarians of the north, Chen in the exotic east, and Shunch in the steaming jungles of the south, his name is always a byword for change. Everywhere, though, he is the great schemer, a subtle manipulator with an all-encompassing knowledge. His plans are inevitability, convoluted and vast, spanning across untold aeons, inexplicable and contradictory to all mortal minds. He is the puppet master, pulling the strings of fate and controlling the destiny of his followers and enemies alike. Tzeentch does not have a single form, normally manifesting himself as a cloud of light that constantly changes color. His symbol is often a representation of the writhing serpent of change, and his demons and champions are frequently gifted with eerie bird-like beaks, claws, and multicolored feathers. Their skin and armor is in constant flow, changing shape and color, forming grotesque cackling faces that mock their opponents, always repeating their words with new and disturbing nuances. Tzeentch gifts those who honor him with superior magical powers that they craftily use to bend reality to their will. Among the northern tribes, shamans pray to him, asking for predominance over the warrior chieftains and fortune in all their magical endeavors. Ultimately, they will receive the gift of mutation far beyond others, or that when time comes, they will accept it with ecstatic abandon. In the Empire and the other kingdoms of man, worshippers of Tzeentch gather in secret covens by which they use every means to increase their own personal standing and to expand the influence of their patron. The ones who are most vulnerable to the lure of the Great Mutator are wizards, scholars, and other educated individuals who thirst for more knowledge and ultimately for power. These sects are normally led by a magister and the most powerful sorcerer among the members, and divided into many different levels of affiliation. They are so secretive and complex that the only one who knows the identity of all the cultists is the magister himself. Few of the followers of Tzeentch can reach the end of the long road that leads to the title of champion, but those few have become the most awesome of all champions of the Dark Gods. They are blessed with both exceptional warrior skills and mighty magical powers of the Lord of Magic. This deadly combination makes them very dangerous foes, cunning leaders and awesome warriors who command their armies with unerring prescience. How is it possible to defeat an enemy who seems to know your every move in advance? So you can see that Tzeentch kind of has these secret societies for cults, almost something like Illuminati-esque, where this one magister knows all these individuals, knows all their names, but only he knows it, and they don't know about each other's presence or actual affiliation with those cults. So you see with Tzeentch here, you get Sarthariel's kind of flavor, kind of theme. You get that giant beaked big bird, basically, and that's a very prevalent thing that you see in a lot of his demons. But you also see the different types of terrors. I think it's the blue terrors and the pink terrors, which are basically these globs of stuff. They don't really have like an actual name, but there's kind of like these congealed things of chaos magic that shoot warp flame out from them, and they're pretty beastly in the actual tabletop. In general, the demons of chaos are one of the strongest armies in the actual tabletop. In fact, unless you have the banner of the world dragon, which is a banner I always talk about for the high elves, the demons typically roll through you, and it's kind of a pain in the ass. When 8th edition ended, demons were always like pretty much the top tier unit or army among some others, but they're kind of just a pain in the dick because they can go anywhere. They can start anywhere on the map by, on the table by pretty much being summoned in. So they're kind of hard to predict, and it's kind of hard to actually strategize around them. But let's go into the actual realm of the sorcerer here. Almost as great in scale as Khorne's domain is the crystal labyrinth of Tzeentch, an iridescent plateau whose brilliance sits in stark contrast to the blood god's wastelands. Whilst the crystal labyrinth is not so massive as Khorne's kingdom, it dominates the realms of chaos no less. Countless glittering pathways spring from the very heart of the labyrinth, fractal filaments that envelope their way into the dominions of other gods and so bind the realm of chaos together. No demons guard the crystal labyrinth, yet a journey through it remains perilous nonetheless. Only the strong-willed can negotiate its countless corridors, for the maze's walls reflect not only light but also hope, despair, dreams, madness, and terror. As if this were not challenge enough, there is no fixed path through, merely a constantly changing series of obstacles and traps created by Tzeentch's unconscious mind. Those trammeled by the labyrinth come to no physical harm, yet no one can escape these halls of infinite possibility with sanity intact. At every step, the air is thick with broken dreams, and everywhere the light sparkles with fragments of shattered personality. The impossible fortress. At the heart of the labyrinth, safe from all save the insane, is the impossible fortress of Tzeentch. As with all of Tzeentch's designs, the exact appearance of the impossible fortress varies according to the nature of the beholder's aspirations. Some perceive it to be crafted from the same crystal as a labyrinth, whilst others see walls of blue flame, or gnarled azure stone. No matter the material, the physical structure of the impossible fortress is in constant flux. Spires and towers constantly writhe and burst forth from the fortress's heart, only to collapse and be reabsorbed moments later. Gateways, windows, and other portals appear in the eldritch building's flanks, only to fold inwards once more. There is no discernible pattern to this behavior, for the writhing shape of the impossible fortress is somehow bound to the state of Tzeentch's current schemes, and there can be no predicting such complexity. The innards of the impossible fortress are no less confounding than the exterior. Different passages and rooms obey different physical laws. That which is decreed by gravity is to be up in one chamber may be down in another, or can indeed be an alternate state of being entirely, such as sorrow or the past. Were a mortal to find himself in the impossible fortress, he would not live long before being driven completely mad. But then, what else is to be expected in a place where a man can travel backwards in time by walking across a room? Those who succumb to the warping nature of Tzeentch's palace collapse utterly in an implosion of consciousness and form. Such creatures are reborn as sorcerer's familiars and given as gifts to Tzeentch's champions in the mortal world. Even demons cannot easily endure the twisted horror of the impossible fortress. Only the Lords of Change can safely navigate its corridors. As a result, no matter how distracted Tzeentch may be with the great game, he is never assailed in his stronghold. The other Chaos Gods have lost too many minions just trying to get beyond the first perplexing room, and invaders must negotiate 100 or more such chambers to come before the hidden library and Tzeentch himself. The Changer of Ways. Tzeentch is the most weirdly formed of all of his brothers. His skin crawls with constantly changing faces that leer and mock those who dare look upon him. These changeling faces are forever in flux, appearing and disappearing in a tide of expression that sweeps across the god's peculiar form. Tzeentch's puckered face is formed upon his upper torso, so his head and body are one. From above Tzeentch's eyes spring two sweeping horns, the spiraling extremities of which crackle with arcane fire. Tzeentch is the changer of ways, a changer of the ways, weaver of all fates, the Great Conspirator, the architect of the fate of the universe. He takes great delight in the plotting and politicking of others, and favors the cunning over the strong, the manipulative over the violent. None of Tzeentch's schemes are simple, and indeed often appear contradictory. Whilst he is not above sullying his hands with the blood of war, Tzeentch much prefers to win his battles through guile and devastating sorcery rather than brute force. The Changer of Ways perceives every event and intention, and from this information his incomprehensible mind can determine how each and every strand will serve to influence the future. Thus do Tzeentch's plans reach through time and space and carry through untold centuries without fulfillment. For Tzeentch, scheming is not the means to an end, it is an end in and of itself. Occupied as he is with weighty schemes, the great sorcerer is not inclined to any form of undue motion. He has minions to attend to such minor concerns. Tzeentch can pass countless centuries at a time, seated in a sea of swirling multicolored mist, scrying the well of eternity's abyssal depths, and examining every flicker in its shimmering surface for clues to events that have yet to pass. Much of his attention is focused upon the mortal world. Of all the chaos gods, it is Tzeentch who is the most fascinated by this other realm. Nevertheless, the hidden library is never quiet nor still, though there is about it a certain ethereal tranquility. As the Great Conspirator contemplates infinity, feathered lords of chains bind spells and magical utterances of all kinds within fiery tombs. Elsewhere, pink horrors scuttle to sculpt the impossible fortress, using their magics to redirect its structure as they await the next phase of Tzeentch's great plans. In Tzeentch's eyes, mortal creatures are immeasurably steeped in deceit and ambiguity, yet somehow live their daily lives practically unaware of their countless contradictions and hypocrisies and the blemishes upon their soul. To the Great Conspirator, such a playground presents an irresistible lure and challenge. Unsurprisingly, Tzeentch cannot help but dabble in the mortal realm, sometimes as part of the great game against his brother gods, but more often just to satisfy his own instinctive urge to meddle, manipulate, and control. It is entirely possible that the Great Conspirator is completely and utterly mad, conjuring schemes that are self-defeating in worlds and dreamscapes that only he can perceive. This would be the most horrifying truth of all, for if Tzeentch is mad, then what is the mortal world save for an expression of his insanity? So you see, again, kind of a repeating amount of information here with the two differing editions, but we have a pretty good description now of the actual realm that Tzeentch inhabits. Now, as far as, these were kind of brought up a little bit here, the greater demon of Tzeentch is the Lord of Change, and so he would play very similar to how we have Sorcerer right now. Sorcerer, he is a greater demon, he is a caster, he is also very, very strong in combat. Not as strong as maybe a Khorne greater demon, because Khorne greater demons have like 10 weapon skill. They're very, very hard hitting, just beasts of war. They're meant to be in close combat. Whereas a Lord of Change, while not the best in close combat, is still a powerhouse in close combat. It's still a creature with strength 6, meaning it can outright kill some units, and it has all of its sorceress abilities as well. So it being a demon does not mean it is a slouch. So you do have then your pink horrors of Tzeentch, as we've seen, and it's just like an amalgamation of faces, tongues, limbs, hands, these little kind of demon creatures that just scuttle around and just use their balefire and all sorts of little kind of spells that they have attached to them. They also have, again, those blue horrors like I was talking about, which I believe they have a whole entire different dynamic than the pink horrors. And again, I don't want to go too much into it. I want to save it for when hopefully Tzeentch is announced as a god for Total War Warhammer. I can go really deep into the actual goodness on this, because they also have the heralds of Tzeentch as well, which are part of the whole pink horrors of Tzeentch, which are described as whirling destroyers, squealers, spinning sour guts. So they're pretty little pesky little guys here. And you've got your flamers of Tzeentch, like I was talking about. They have their flames of Tzeentch ability where they shoot flames out in front of them, just a direct little, almost like a conical breath attack. You can kind of think of it that way. Your screamers and your discs of Tzeentch. All of the chaos gods have a mount associated with them. The Khorne has his oh my god, what's the name of them? They're like these hulking, basically juggernaut. I think it's called a Khorne juggernaut. It's a mechanical bull, more or less. Slaanesh has their mounts of Slaanesh. Nurgle has their mounts of Nurgle. It's like the giant, like a plague horse, basically. And then Tzeentch has these discs that fly around, that their sorcerers are on top of. If you type in Tzeentch Sorcerer, you'll see one of them on top of a little flying disc here. I'll squeeze one into this video so you can see it. But also, you've got your burning chariots of Tzeentch. These are going to be your typical kind of chariot unit, but they're also going to have their warp flame capability that those flamers of Tzeentch have. So they can use some definitely bringing some different characteristics and a lot of different flavor in with Chaos Demon units. You can see that they kind of borrow from a lot of different mechanics that we already see in the tabletop, or we already see in Total War Warhammer, to make for a very twisted but a very unique unit in and of itself. But we do have then the special character, two of the special characters. Oh my god, it's three? It's three? I can't remember that. There's three special characters, or I'm sorry, two actually. The Blue Scribes, which are a cavalry unit, for Tzeentch. I was wrong again. It wasn't. It is an actual special character. They ride their discs of Tzeentch, as we talked about. Little kind of discs that is the mount special for Tzeentch. We have the Changeling, which is not, as you would have assumed, a greater demon, but just is a demon of Tzeentch nonetheless. And then we have Kairos, Fate Weaver, which, I'll be honest with you, I thought that Sorcerer was going to be Kairos. Kairos and Sorcerer are kind of one and the same in the sense that Kairos is a named Lord of Change and very powerful as well. So I thought that when I saw that, oh man, there's this greater demon of Tzeentch popping out of the narrator. It's gonna be it's not Kairos. Okay, it's a Sorcerer. All right, cool. We're new guy here. Okay, so he's kind of the same kind of role that you would expect from Sorcerer. He can choose from Lore of Life, Metal, and Light, and Heavens. But on the other hand, he's got two heads, and they can choose two different types of lores. And the other head can choose Death, Beast, Shadow, and Fire. But both of them know Lore of Tzeentch. So it's basically you have two casters in one. It's a real unique mechanic, like I was saying, with Tzeentch. You get a lot of different abilities, a lot of different spice coming from one unit in itself. The Chariots with their flame abilities, Kairos with his double mage capabilities makes him pretty damn powerful on the tabletop. But this is kind of just again a brief overview of Tzeentch. Hopefully you guys got a pretty good idea of what's going on here. In the next video we'll be touching on Big Papa Nurgle. And definitely, if you haven't noticed, Tzeentch is definitely the caster of the Chaos Gods. You've got Khorne, who is your up close and personal kind of do the damage, get it done with. You got Slaanesh, who is more of your fast attack type unit, more finesse. More what I would actually expect more kind of like AP characteristics from like a Slaanesh based unit, whereas Khorne I would expect more frenzy, more damage dealer, more unbreakable type rule sets. And then with Nurgle, which we'll get into, you'll see he's a little bit more tanky. I don't want to ruin as much from it until I go into it, but he's a lot more tanky than the other three gods. So that's all for Tzeentch right here, guys. If you do have any more questions about him, or if some of you play maybe the Thousand Suns in 40k, or you play Tzeentch to heavy armies and demons or warriors of chaos, definitely leave some comments on some things that you'd like me to cover or left out, or maybe I didn't explain it as well. I was a big Khorne guy and a big I like Tzeentch a lot because he's blue, and blue is my favorite fucking color. So I always kind of said to myself, if I play Chaos again, I definitely want to go through maybe the Thousand Suns and be Tzeentch, because casting has become so amazing in the tabletop, and casting is so strong in Total War Warhammer that it's almost kind of like, wow, why don't I just choose that army that's going to be so much more fun to play? But I was always real big on Khorne. The blood for the blood god, blood or skulls for the skull throne is like, a mantra of life right there. But this concludes this video here for today, guys. Do let me know if you wanted to hear anything else, or if you're curious about any other things about Tzeentch. Love to give you as much information as I can. But thanks for watching, guys. Take care.